I'm going to put it back into the real estate thing. You got a house, you bought a house and it's like, well, I want to improve the value of the house. What should I be doing? Right. Well, should I add a deck? Should I add another bathroom? Am I going to get a return on the investment? So we'd have companies that would come back. They go, hey, I'm thinking about selling. And so we'd start with the valuation and they go, oh my gosh, what you're telling me, Reed, is if I change these half a dozen things, I could add $500,000 to value to my business. And the answer is yes, yes, you can. And they'd go away for a year and then they come back a year later and say, okay, let's do the valuation again. I think we got that stuff fixed. And they identify some more stuff. And so we got into the rhythm with most of our customers is like, hey, it's a quarterly review. So every quarter we're doing a valuation for you. We're identifying where you at on these 26 different risk factors, but then also really looking at, there's really two elements that drive a valuation, right? How do I change the multiple, which comes to those company specific risk factors? And then how do I change my EBITDA? Because that's what's getting multiplied, right? And so in the end, we're running to look at both of those different elements and say, hey, how do we optimize your profitability of the business? And how do we optimize the multiple of the business? And candidly, for most people, it's easily a 3-year journey to get all those things kind of dialed in and optimized. And so when we think about somebody is contemplating an exit in the next 3 to 5 years, if the proof is in the pudding's your financials. And so you can talk a lot about all
Right.
the things you want to do and how great your company is, but if I can't see that in your financials, no buyer's going to believe you and no investor's going to believe you. And so when you look at making the changes over time, it really is working through those different elements such that I can see it actually in your financials where you made those strategic decisions as a business. And now that becomes proof that you've actually made the change and the change is actually working effectively. And so from that perspective, we really like to be able to do it quarterly, just because it produces data sets that are relevant. And most people are on a EOS type system. And so it fits into the quarterly rocks. Hey, this quarter, we're going to really work on our contracts. This quarter, we're going to really fix our chart of accounts. This quarter, we're going to do these different pieces. And each of those elements fundamentally increase the value of the business while you improve on the profitability and on the growth of the business. And so um, I would just say we've got clients that are, you know, in their late 30s, early 40s, who are using valuation service like, hey, this is how I can make sure that everything that I'm doing within the business is driving a more healthy and profitable business. It also gives me the ability, if when you when you think about it from a transaction, even from a buy side perspective. So when you map out your trajectory, you're leaving about 50% of your growth on the table if you don't have an acquisitive strategy. Now, most people aren't actually set up to go do acquisitions and acquire companies, but I'm just telling you, when you look at your max growth rate, you have a huge opportunity to be able to go do acquisitions. And again, the only way you can really do acquisitions is you have to have a good understanding of the value of your business, because you're going to need banks if you're going to do debt financing,
Right.
or an investor if you're going to give them equity to help you do that. And then fundamentally, the seller is going to resemble the buyer in the next 12 to 18 months. And so you need to become a model company for what that seller is going to eventually look like. And so if you're struggling at 5% EBITDA, growing at 5%, you could buy a completely high performing 20% growth, 20% profit MSP. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to look like you. And as much as you may want to capture the good things that they're doing, you as the buyer are going to dictate the structure and the form and eventually the performance of that company. And so the best thing for you to do is to become a top performing company so that you can do acquisitions of suboptimal firms. And guess what? You're the one who gets the benefit lift from actually transforming them from that suboptimal into that optimal firm that you've become as a part of that journey.